There's a pretty sick drum circle in Montreal on Sundays.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's pretty dope. They call them the Tam Tams.
There's also good bagels.
It's true. Different from New York, but still pretty good.
I liked them. I thought they were good.
Yeah. They seem like sweeter, and I think they're like something you could eat by itself, whereas a bagel is like a really hearty like start to a sandwich or something.
Chewy. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I have to fill my water bottle.
Fine.
I'm back. It took a little bit longer than I hoped.
Baby, he's back. Quick question. Do you want to play a game?
Is this like the Saw movies?
Do you want to play a game? It's probably not as exciting. So this is GameStop. #GameStop. That's the name that's the name that I've come up for our segment of games on our podcast.
I think I've heard that somewhere before.
I'm going to trademark it. I'm going to lock it down. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah. It is good. You're right.
#GameStop. Okay, what percentile do you think It's Always Stockholm in Los Angeles is in worldwide on podcasts?
You said that we were in the top 10%.
Oh, damn. Never mind. This game was just
twice.
ruined.
You sent it to me last night, and then I think you put it in the Discord. Also,
I'll have to think of a
how
new
is that
game
possible?
My theory is that basically free to upload a podcast. We pay for a service, blah, 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 because we don't have ads, I guess. But Anchor, there are apps. You could probably do everything on your phone. I'm guessing between 50 and 80% of all podcasts worldwide have one or fewer downloads.
Yeah, or one episode. And one episode.
Right. Yeah, or they have hundreds of episodes and each one has one or fewer downloads. So that is why I think that we immediately beat 50 to 80%. And then, I guess we're doing well enough to beat the next. Like, if you think of podcasts as some are alive and some are dead, like of the breathing ones, we're beating half of them probably.
Right.
But these are these are people in wheelchairs, like on oxygen, like they're not very healthy. They're alive, but not healthy.
Right. Okay. When I think about it like that, that makes sense.
We are a crawling baby, and we are moving faster than dead people and people that are bedridden.
Yeah, we occasionally have a couple peaks here and there. That's very interesting, Will.
Well,
thank you for that GameStop.
I guess that whole chunk can go away because I didn't remember that I sent it to you twice in the past 24 hours.
It's okay. I thought it was a great segment. And you know what? We can only go up from here with GameStop.
Hell yeah.
Cool. Are you ready to hop into this bitch?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, however you choose to identify, welcome to It's Always Stockholm in Los Angeles. I am your podcast dad, Nate Harold, and with me is my podcast baby son, Will New.
Hi.
Today we are talking about It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Season 2, Episode 7.
Hell yeah.
Is it 7? Yeah, it's 7.
7 straight from heaven.
The Gang Exploits a Miracle. This episode was written by, I lost it. Charlie Day and two other people. Charlie Day, Chris Romano, and Eric Falconer. Directed by...
Whoa. Chris Romano. What?
Do you know who that is?
That's not Ray Romano.
It's not Ray Romano.
Okay. Do you think they're related?
Definitely. This was directed by the big baller himself, Dan Attias.
We love Dan. He's great. Also, can I go back for just a second and say, do you know, I'm pretty sure that Ray Romano, what's his show called?
Everybody Loves Raymond?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that takes place in Limbrook, New York, where I grew up.
Cool. How close does he live to the King of Queens?
Well, Rosedale, Queens is approximately like 5 miles from
Okay.
Limbrook. It's like
Cool.
3 towns over. But Queens is pretty big. So he could be all the way, I don't know where the king lives. He could live all the way up near LaGuardia or some shit.
Right. So in this episode, the gang finds a water stain in the office that resembles the Virgin Mary, and then they charge a bunch of people to come see it, and then a priest pees on it. Will, what did you think about this episode?
Well, I think you summed that up really well.
Thank you.
First, I think Always Sunny is good. Second, Charlie's my fave. And I think I'm pretty much done with this podcast.
Great. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a wonderful series. This is our series finale. Cue the sad music.
I didn't know if you wanted to. I kind of liked, even though I didn't understand your joke, I kind of liked the way we did that in the last one where you did a lightning fast recap, and then I gave you my thoughts about the episode.
Oh, okay, like a zoomed out overview.
Exactly. I think that's cool.
Okay, in that case, I thought the episode was great. Obviously, we've been waiting for this moment for the past, 17 episodes, because we get to see little Maddie Mara. Yeah, that's huge. That's great. I mean, and I don't know what's better because he does such a good job, and the episode is so like painful and brutal to him. You can like see his innocence being destroyed, and knowing what happens later, it's like funny on a certain level. But I think maybe not knowing, it's almost funnier. Or not funnier, but I don't know. It's a different experience when you know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
because as of now, you just think he's like a character that comes in and gets shit on and then leaves.
Right. Little Maddie Mara is played by the great David Hornsby, who is also a writer and producer on the show.
Also married to Bones.
Married to Bones, which Will had to explain to me, and now I understand.
Yeah, Bones. She's like one of those TV cop adjacent shows.
Right. Crime scene investigator or something like that.
Forensics, crime scene,
forensics.
Special. There's probably a special victim involved.
Yeah, so we start this episode in Patty's as usual, and it is somewhat worth mentioning the sometimes when they start episodes and the gang is like in the middle of a conversation, like it's inconsequential, but this does have some meaning because Dennis is giving Dee a hard time about her skin being blotchy.
Right.
I am looking. What's the matter with it?
It's all blotchy.
Whatever, they're talking about Dee's skin, and then Mac is talking about how the gang was doing better at the bar before Frank saved them with all of his money, which I kind of wish they would elaborate on that a little bit more.
Well, I was thinking about this. Do you think that, again, maybe I give them too much credit because I love them so much.
Yeah.
Do you think that they're planting the seed of Frank's, like, shady practices and cooking the books?
Wolf Cola, yeah, it could be. It could be.
I mean, he's been in charge for like 4 episodes, right? Or something like that.
Because I think they start exposing the cooking the books when Dee gets audited in season maybe 7, something like that. So yeah, I mean, who's to say?
Also, it could be a little bit of both. It could be like a funny thing where they're just like, oh yeah, maybe Frank's cooking the books. We'll get to that later.
Yeah. I mean, it seems
it's not
like
an elaborate scheme.
Right. It seems like he would be. He's like filthy rich and, a degenerate.
Right. And he spent some time in Nam.
At a sweatshop. Yeah.
Hey, he lost a lot of good men at that sweatshop.
So Charlie has a great entrance where he's like kind of yawning. Obviously, he just woke up. And they're like, telling him that he shouldn't sleep in the bar. And they already talked about this. And he's rationalizing with them by saying that he found some water damage. And so maybe they shouldn't be so mean to him. And maybe he drank a little too much, so he slept in the office. So maybe lay off.
Maybe I'm not such a bad guy for passing out in there and drinking too much or whatever.
That's a terrible excuse, dude.
Well, I drank too much, so lay off.
He also does a really good job of acting tired, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Like his eyes really feel droopy. And I'm convinced. Like a lot of times when people act drunk or act like that, where it's like you need to be kind of obvious, sometimes it doesn't come off well, but
right.
I thought he did a great job.
Right. And so yeah, so they all go in to look at this water damage because it's just like shit, another thing that's going wrong with this bar. And when they see it, Mac instantly recognizes it as the Virgin Mary. He has a he has a great bit here where he says
The head and the arms and the cape.
Look like it.
like the cape kind of gets like talked over, but it's
Right.
that one really got me good. So like there's some skepticism. Maybe this isn't the Virgin Mary. Maybe they just have water damage because they need to get their pipes fixed. But Frank becomes the head degenerate here, and he says that it's a gold mine and they should cash in on it.
Whether or not it's a stain or a sign doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Title sequence. So we come back after the title sequence, and it's Dennis on TV.
Mm-hmm.
On the interview, he's saying that he was praying on his rosaries, and then he was doing some crunches, working on his abs.
Yeah.
And the line that I took away from this is,
If you like the Virgin Mary and you like beer, come on down to Patty's Pub. We got them both.
It's
it's
pretty
really
good.
well delivered.
Yeah.
It's really well delivered. It's like
Yeah.
he's doing the like guy who's not usually on TV, doing an advertisement for his bar.
Well, I took that a slightly different way. I sort of saw that as like, wow, he's keeping composed
Yeah.
while hitting all the bullet points.
Yeah.
I think for an amateur spokesperson, I think he's doing a great job. Actually,
I agree. I feel like Glenn Howerton stepped back from to act this very naturally and kind of act stiff.
Mhm.
Like maybe not super comfortable in front of the camera, but he does do a great job, and he's got those pearly whites. But while he's watching this, he has a concern about his face being maybe a little too fat.
Because there's the trope of the camera adding 10 pounds, which
Right.
I guess I don't know if that's true or not. I don't understand how or why it would. What is that?
I don't either. I don't know. I don't know.
All right, hold on. Here we go. I'll use the internet and I'll look. Does the camera...
Google it. Maybe it's
really
because you're seeing.
add-
Maybe it's because you're occasionally seeing yourself from angles that you don't see in a mirror.
The camera really does add 10 pounds. According to Gizmodo,
Oh, okay.
so adorable. I loved Gremlins too. The focal length of a camera can flatten out your features, which makes you look a little bit bigger. Then, of course, there's barrel distortion, which is when a camera lens can cause straight lines to appear curved.
Interesting. Patty's is more full than usual. Like right off the bat, it's kind of looks like a bunch of maybe like older people milling about and talking to each other. Frank is on door duty, and he's collecting money from the people coming in. And there's a really great interaction with him and a sweet old lady where she gives him a quarter. I think it's Dee who's like, are you sure we should be exploiting this for cash? And
Don't get all high and mighty on me. I only made $4, DeAndre. I think I could live with myself.
Right. Yeah, I love this old lady. For a while, I couldn't figure out what ethnicity she was because she seems like she could be almost anyone's grandmother.
yeah, I think she's Hispanic, right?
Yeah. She
Yeah.
later says gracias and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
One of the more notable things I found about this entrance fee thing is that they had the velvet rope in front of the office door.
yeah,
Love it. It's such a classy touch.
yeah, they're like bouncers basically.
Right. So the city of Philadelphia is taking a look at this water stain, seeing if it's a miracle, and in walks a priest by the name of Father Matthew Mara. He stops by the bar to look at the stain, and he is recognized by the gang as Little Matty Mara at first. Mac recognizes him, and then Charlie comes up with him, and then Charlie alerts Dennis. Then he starts talking to Dee, I think.
Yeah, he first recognizes Dee, and they go through the spiel of him saying, "Oh, I'm Matty Mara," and she's like, "No, don't know you." And he's like, "We were in physical therapy together. I had the leg braces, and
We were the only people. I was the only other person in physical therapy with you.
Yeah, exactly. It was just the two of them every day, and she didn't remember it until he mentioned the leg braces, and she's like, "Oh, right, that's you." Also, she didn't remember the fact that she made him eat a horse turd.
Right. I mean, that's
She
the thing
forgot
with the
that
gang,
part?
right? Like it's like with the waitress, like how they
Right.
never remember. It's
Yeah,
kind
I
of
guess
that,
that's
like,
part of the bit.
just being an asshole, never remembering other people.
I mean, that's
and
part
then-
of being a true asshole.
And then they're like, "What did we used to call you in high school?" And it's Rickety Cricket. And so The name has graced us for the first time. It's Rickety Cricket, folks.
Cricks.
And then they're talking to him about the water stain, and there's a really great line from Father Matthew. They said, like, do you think this is a miracle? And he says, we don't just throw around that term like a football, which is a very, like, nerd in high school, something they would say, like,
Right.
I'm not a jock. Very obviously not a jock. The one thing I also wanted to notice or to point out is that they talk about how they used to teabag Rickety
Right.
Cricket. And Dennis was like, Charlie, you said you found those pics on the internet, right? Because they're talking about how they like circulated through the school, and then
Right.
they're like, Dennis still has them, and then it's like other people still have them, and then it escalates to, Charlie, you saw these on the internet, right? I thought that was pretty funny.
And they talk about how he was so popular because of those photos.
yeah. People love those photos.
Yeah, there was a certain innocence to this conversation where they're just kind of shouting and like they're excited.
Don't you want to be
him.
popular?
Yeah, they're excited to see him, and they're discussing how popular he was for this thing where this is probably like a huge source of trauma in his childhood.
Absolutely.
Also, I did make a note of this. I think I even thought about this every time I've seen this episode, and I think it comes up later where they're hunting cricket.
Right.
What is teabagging involved? Do you put your balls in someone's mouth, or do you just rest them on their chin?
Okay, I think this is another regional thing, much like 21.
Ah.
I've only seen someone get teabagged once in my life.
Oh,
and
can you take us back? Set the scene.
Well, it was our friend. Our friend got married. Like I think I was maybe a junior in college, and our friend was getting married. Amongst my friend group, and we rented a cabin out in the Ozarks for his bachelor party.
Have you seen the show Ozark?
I saw the first season.
Ozarks?
Yeah.
So
And
anyway.
we all we did was like get drunk and shoot off fireworks. We shot off fireworks in the cabin, actually. Also, anyways,
Sick. I love that.
One of our friends passed out, and my friend took his balls out and put them on his forehead, and someone took a picture.
Okay. So
but they were physically touching his forehead.
They're just teabagging is just the act of placing your balls on another person's face, most likely.
But it could be different depending on where you're from.
Right. Okay. So it seems balls are in kind of like a weird spot where they live, but
right.
Did he just pull his pants down, or did he have to take his pants off to get like the accuracy and like the balance?
So the friend was passed out, kind of like sitting up. My friend was kind of tall, so he just took his balls out from his zipper, like he just pulled them out through the zipper and like kind of stretched them out a little bit just so they were touching.
Interesting. Oh, that's convenient. That worked out.
Yeah,
I was picturing somebody like passed out on a couch, and you have to like, you have to squat. But then, if you're wearing pants, how are you going to squat? You have to take your pants. You can't do the ankles. And, it's like, and also you're around a bunch of drunk people. Someone like as you're like crouching with your pants around your ankle, standing on top of a couch, someone just like nudges you a little bit, and then you fall over, and it's almost a funnier prank.
Entirely,
Yeah.
In my anecdotal experience, it wasn't a simple task, but it wasn't as inconvenient as you might think it would be.
All right. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so it goes without saying, back to the show, that Father Matthew Mara is not going to bless the stain, which is what they want. So they have some credibility amongst the people they're grifting. So Frank thinks that Dee should use her charm and their past love, their past relationship to convince Cricket to bless the stain.
Right. So if in high school, if he was willing to eat a horse turd to kiss her, then they're assuming at this point he would probably bless the stain if she, enticed him.
Right. Yeah. Dee told Cricket that in high school that she would kiss him if he ate a horse turd, and then he ate the horse turd, and then she said she wouldn't kiss him because his breath smelled like shit.
That line is great when I think Dennis is telling the story, and then Charlie chimes in when they get to the end, the punchline.
Yeah.
And it really feels natural. It feels like...
Then she doesn't kiss him because she says his breath smelled like shit. Yeah.
They're literally like kind of washed up, late 20s people talking about their glory days of high school.
Yeah.
He's like excited to finish the story.
Yeah. So in this spot, Mac is kind of like going away from the group, saying, "You guys are all going to be smited. This is sacrilegious." Blah blah blah. And then they do a really great psychological warfare type experiment on Dee by saying
Right.
that Maddie Mara wouldn't be attracted to her anymore because she's too old.
Mhm.
She's got the crow's feet,
The blotchy skin that Dennis saw earlier.
Exactly, which just makes Dee fall into their trap and say, "Yeah, okay, you know what, you guys, fuck you guys. I'm gonna go get him. I can convince him with my womanly charms."
Right.
So I don't know if it's the same day or not, but the next part is Dee outside of, I'm assuming, is his church, and she does some flirting with him, and there's some Cricket brings up the eating the horse turd, and there's a great line.
The taste of that thing alone,
No, I can't imagine.
it haunts me.
Of course it does.
He does a lot of like almost finished sentences in this moment. He's great. He's so good. He's
so
a
good.
great actor.
Yeah, and he only gets better really as the series goes on. Dee is just being like really, really shitty and like leading him on horribly.
Right.
And
I mean, she even starts. She has almost like a convincing bit where she starts by asking him pretty flat out to bless the stain, and based on our history, I figured
Right.
you might want to, and he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. It's beneath us, whatever. And she's like, okay, forget that. I just want to apologize because I know I treated you poorly, and now seeing you've grown into such a handsome man.
Yeah.
And then she like transitions into flirting where it should be just an apology, and then he's like, well, you're doing it again. You're taking advantage of me. And she's like, oh, hee, I didn't realize. And she does that several more times.
Right.
She's laying it on thick.
He basically tells her to go away, and then later she comes back into the confessional booth again to try the same trick, and he is really resisting, and she is really being relentless.
Right. And this point, I don't think it's about proving Dennis and Frank wrong,
Right.
or about the stain. At this point, I think she's like totally, he's got his hooks in her, she thinks, simply by saying no. Right now, it's like a game for her, So she's like determined to win, and the more he plays hard to get, the more she wants it. So at this point, she's like pulling out all the stops. She's got like this very red lipstick and this like lacy dress.
Right.
She's like done up.
At the end of this confession interaction, it's really funny. She's like, "Maddie, open the door. I love you." And he slams the door closed for like the second time.
Maddie, open the door. I love you.
She says it twice.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
This is kind of like what we talked about in the last episode, where it was like, well, maybe Dee's still like kind of an okay person in the show. Maybe is this the first episode where she really just goes full on corrupt?
Yeah, I think the last thing we really saw from her was the roid rage.
Yeah,
that
and I
doesn't count.
I feel like that's different. Yeah, this is her just being a shithead.
Yeah, this is her being like evil and selfish and narcissistic and manipulative and and we could say all those things, but until you see the next 10 seasons, you really don't know what she's done. Like, you don't know the true extent of how terrible she's being to this person.
But yeah, for being this early in the series, this has to be the first or close to the first time that she goes down with the gang morality wise.
Yeah.
So back at the bar, Mac and Charlie are arguing about the stain, and something happens where this woman asks Mac to bless her. And this sparks something alive in Mac, and he thinks that like, hey, we could do this. We could bless the people that come in here.
I think this can actually be a good thing. We could change the world.
Okay, all right.
Charlie also wants to get involved, and
He'll throw out some blessings too.
Yeah. And Max suggests that he becomes his Peter.
Right. His like
his
partner,
disciple, Yeah. And Mac encourages him to dress better because he's kind of dressed like shit.
Yeah. This is also, I think this is cool because as we've seen earlier in the episode, and at this point, it's really like, this is where it switches. But this is like the first time we see Max kind of descent into religion. He's like telling us that he wanted to be a priest. And
in the first
all these
scene,
other
he
things.
says, he said, "You guys remember how I wanted to be a priest?" Which is like, that's new.
Yeah. But yeah, as we'll see in the next 10 years, like he has some weird religious stuff going on.
Yeah. And I mean,
But-
they're all pretty selfish, but this kind of exposes Mac's vanity also.
Mhm.
Yeah, Mac suggests that Charlie should dress nicer. So what happens is, one of the greatest scenes in this episode is Charlie dressing in an all-white suit. I'm assuming this is like some sort of evangelical reference.
Right. Just an over-the-top, like flamboyant religious leader.
Right. And I'm going to put in the song he sings here.
Oh my
which
God,
is
it's so
something
good.
that I sing all the time.
I got the Lord. I got the Lord. I got the good Lord. It's going down on me, down on me. I got the Lord.
I don't sing this song as much, but the next scene that I think is just as good is when he first starts his speech to his disciples.
Absolutely.
And that's the one that I quote all the time.
Yeah.
I say,
Yeah.
I'm in love with a
we'll
man.
Get there. We'll get there. Right, so we see Charlie make this grand entrance, singing this song, this gospel-type song, wearing all white. I mean, all white. Tie.
He looks great.
Yeah, he looks really good. Whereas Mac is dressed all in black, and he says that they look like salt and pepper shakers.
Also, Mac has a short sleeve button-down shirt, which is kind of his thing.
Yeah, that seems like his thing, exactly.
Yeah.
So then, like, the similar situation happens where an old man asks one of them to bless him, and they're like, which one of us would you choose? And he chooses Charlie.
Why?
He seems a lot more religious than you.
Okay, but
And Charlie does the, like, what do you call that? Evangelicals that do all, like, the talking in tongues and...
Snake handling and like...
yeah, he does a real, like...
He's a very power of Christ compels you.
Yeah, it's a real, like, theatrical, like, boop on the head. There's, like, a wind up and a pitch, kind of.
Yeah, what is that called?
What is that called?
They're not exercising demons or anything. I almost said
No.
Siemens.
They're not...
Exercising the
Siemens.
Whatever. People know what we're talking about. He's just doing the weird religious thing where he like heals someone just by touching their forehead and like pushing them down.
Right.
Like,
Whatever
and
that's
people,
called.
when you see videos of this, it's insane. Like people faint, people fall, people are screaming, and
It kind of looks like fun, to
yeah,
be honest.
yeah. If you were raking in money from all of these people and you were just like dancing around on stage, making people faint, yeah, it would be
Speaking in
super fun.
tongues. How fun
Yeah.
is speaking in tongues? Yeah, so as this salt and pepper religious figures plotline progresses, this is where we get to...
here's a confession. I'm in love with a man. What? I'm in love with a man. A man called God. Does that make me gay? Am I gay for God? You betcha.
Yeah, it's really, like, I can't think of the specific references that he's pulling from, but he really does strike you as a believable preacher. He's doing a really accurate job, I think.
Yeah, he's great.
He's got the good Lord all up inside of him. There's a really great yin and yang type preaching, gospel telling scene where Mac is reading from the Bible.
Right, because,
And-
well, I think it's important to note that Mac is livid that Charlie shows up in this suit, and he's incredulous because Charlie does outshine him, like, drastically.
Big time.
And I think there's even a funny moment where Max says, "Where'd you even get this suit?" And he said, "I have my suppliers, or I have
Yeah.
my connections," which reminded me of a lot when he was talking to Wang and said, "I have my ways."
Yeah, I have my ways.
Do you know what I mean when I say I have my ways? Hey guys, thanks for listening to It's Always Stockholm in Los Angeles. I'm Will Noon, and I just wanted to say thanks. If you do enjoy this podcast, definitely subscribe. And if you feel so inclined and think we are 5-star men, give us a good rating, maybe leave a review so that other people can find it.
And you can always follow us on Twitter at Always Stockholm.
Mac's jealousy
Max
leads
jealousy.
to him challenging
Right.
Charlie's, because Charlie's got this natural charisma in his suit and his flamboyant approach. It does kind of seem like what I would think is a real life struggle in religion, where there are the fundamental people who are like more pious and they think they're more serious, but then there are these like younger, newer, more flamboyant people who are less about the religion and more about the show. And there's that sort of conflict, which is funny because Mac is like pseudo-religious, but
Right.
but he challenges
a Bible,
Charlie basically to a Bible off.
Yeah. This is great. Charlie's basically just like interrupting Mac and being like, "So what's in between the lines?" and like
Right.
going way off script and saying things that don't really make any sense. It's about Moses and the burning bush, and basically the moral of the story for Charlie is that God is going to reward him with some sweet-ass shoes. If you trust in God, he'll give you shoes. And
Right.
he's really
That's
got the audience in the palm of his hand, whereas Mac is not succeeding.
Right, because Charlie's riffing, and like I said, he's charismatic, so he's got people's attention, whereas Mac is just reading from the Bible, and it's it's a little stale, despite being right.
Yeah, exactly. Charlie is telling people what they want to hear.
Right, trust in God, you get new shoes.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's the holy ground line is kind of funny because Mac says like, and then Jesus said to Moses, "Take off your shoes." Now, why did he say that? And then Charlie jumps in and is like, because of the burning bush. He was testing him. And he's like, no, because the holy ground. Charlie says, no. And he's like, no, it's the next line. It says literally, because the place you are about to step is holy ground.
Right.
And I didn't realize this. I think at some point, Mac keeps saying like, I can't believe you're betraying me. Like, can't believe you're doing this. You're usurping my power. Like, you were supposed to be my Peter.
Right.
I didn't grow up religious at all, but I had to look it up because it seemed too obvious.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you're familiar, but Peter betrayed Jesus 3 times.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well,
I guess it's like
sense.
the redemption of Peter or something.
Yeah.
I guess right before Jesus was arrested, they were hanging out with the apostles and Jesus, and they were chilling. It might have been the Last Supper. I don't know, but he basically said, Peter, before the crow, cries in the morning, you will have betrayed me 3 times. And Peter's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because they're all chilling, having a good time. It's like party zone. They're like in it. And then all of a sudden Jesus gets arrested. And like I think some like waitressy kind of woman or like farm girl is like, wait, I saw him hanging out with Jesus. He's like, no, what are you talking about? And that was like the first betrayal. And then like she says it again when somebody else shows up. And then I guess like someone of authority says it like a 3rd time when they're like, they have everyone like kind of penned in.
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And he starts cursing. He does it. And then he hears a crow cry in the distance. And then he freaks out.
Understandable.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, you can cut all that out. It's just like a real Bible reference.
I'm keeping all of that in.
Boring Jesus.
Yeah, so while all of this is happening, Dennis is fasting. It's a very weird, I guess, C plot.
Yeah, but
he's kind of just
good.
gone. Yeah, no, it is good. But it's very unusual for Sonny, I think. He comes back into the bar looking basically like a zombie.
Yeah,
and he's been fasting because he was concerned about the fatness in his face.
Well, I thought I would get into the spirit of the religious aspect of what we got going on.
That's because we said his face looks fat.
It is not. People have been fasting for thousands of years for health.
Then he's like sitting talking to Dee about it, and she's like, "I was just messing with you," and he's like, "Why would you do that to me?" And she says, "It's because he's a bad person."
Right. He was being an asshole earlier about her blotchy skin, so she just went with it, and she was like, "Oh yeah, you think you're fat? Sure, your face looks a little fat." He does a great job of this as well, acting emaciated and, totally removed.
And some good makeup too.
Yeah. He has like stage 1 zombie makeup on, which is pretty cool. And we see the beginning of his vanity. This is like his...
Absolutely.
I feel like he does this several times.
He has the chemical peel. He dyes his hair black.
Exactly. Yeah, that episode. Yeah. Like I said, it's not like important for the plot, but it's sort of interesting and important for character development over the rest of the series.
Yeah. This episode is a great example of a lot of character development.
Right. Actually, it shows
Rickety
everybody.
Cricket, Dennis, Mac. I mean, Charlie's is a little
Charlie
different, but
I don't know. Like, did we see him being so charismatic and flamboyant and musical up to this point?
No, I mean that's true. Yes, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like he's more portrayed as dumb janitor.
Right. But I guess
But
I'm just saying.
he does have. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
He does have these qualities. They're maybe just not out frequently.
Right, but this is I just think this is like developing the characters, and not in their everyday moments, but
Yeah.
just like everyone has these quirks. Like Dennis has the vanity rabbit holes that he goes down, and Mac has the religious themes.
And D becomes way
Manipulative,
more
and
depraved. Yeah.
evil.
Yeah. So while Dennis is on this not eating, trying to make your face skinny bit, Frank has an idea. Since it seems like Rickety Cricket is not going to bless the stain, he knows an old priest by the name of Father O'Grady, who seems to be a drunk, dementia-addled old man living alone.
Yeah.
So they go to his apartment, and the Father O'Grady is talking about brown cats. I'm not sure if that means anything or if that's just something random that they had him say.
The cats are brown.
Yeah, it seems like pretty random. I was thinking he seems like he's a very convincing, senile old man.
He is.
Do you think it's very easy for old people to act old and senile because we kind of assume or want them to be because they look crazy? Like,
That's a good question. This guy seems especially old.
Right. He looks 1,000 years. Like, he looks like he's dying. Like, his skin
Yeah.
is, like when their skin just gets
Translucent.
translucent and there's just like bruises everywhere.
Yeah.
His hair is like super thin. He's almost got, I don't know. He's just like crouched into like a weird hunch. But like,
Yeah.
in my brain, I feel like you're just going to meet him and he's going to like stand up a lot straighter, speak with like no slurring and lisping and like whatever. Or, he's just going to change. I don't know. It just seems like old people, man. We just expect
Yeah.
them to be decrepit, and sometimes they
Yeah.
are, and sometimes they are not.
Yeah. I mean, he looks like he's 1,000 years old. So I'm not sure how much he was acting. I mean,
Right.
obviously he was acting, but I'm saying I don't know how different that speech style is from his unaffected speech.
I'm assuming it's very different because it would be probably difficult to work with people if they weren't really, in good
Yeah.
shape mentally and
Definitely.
physically, like having them on set for
Definitely.
how many hours, getting them in and out
Right.
of wardrobe, directing them,
Right.
lights, sound, confusion. Like, you'd probably want somebody who was pretty with it, but looked like a crypt keeper.
Totally. And then in that case, he was probably perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Father O'Grady's an old drunk, and but Frank wants to have him come to the bar to bless the stain because that just adds credibility to the water stain, even though it's just a water stain. And so they bring him back to Patty's. He blesses Mac by spitting in his face,
Right.
and then they lose track of him just for a minute, and they find him urinating on their miracle water stain.
When Irish eyes are smiling, sure 'tis like a
No, get away from there!
I love that that the believers who are there blame the disappearance of the miracle on Charlie and Mac for being false prophets.
Right. That same old woman who's great.
Yeah,
She starts
exactly.
yelling
Yeah.
about it. And Mac feels some redemption there because he's like, yes, Charlie, he's a false prophet.
Yeah, but then so does Mac. We also get a visit at the bar from Cricket, who comes in wearing normal clothes. He's not wearing the priest uniform outfit. What would you call it?
More of a costume, I'd say.
Costume. There we go. So he's like,
I mean, I had to become a priest to reconnect with you, and I had to leave the priesthood to have you.
he said, Mr. Reynolds, I would like to ask you for your daughter's hand in marriage. And Frank's line is incredible.
Done.
He takes 1 second and he says,
Yeah.
done.
I loved it.
So good.
So then there's a very awkward interaction between Dee and Cricket. Dee pulls the line like, I think you're a really great guy, and all the guys behind just kind of like wince.
Cringe. Yeah.
Can you go get it back? Can you better go?
Yeah, go
back
undo
there.
that. Yeah, go ask them.
undo
Yeah,
that.
just go
Yeah.
back to the church, get your priesthood back. And when Matthew Mara says that he can't do it, he's like, "That's not how it works. You can't just get it back." This scene always reminds me of Michael Scott when he's talking about vasectomies.
snip, snap.
Yeah, snip,
Yeah.
snap, snip, snap. You don't know the
Exactly.
toll it takes on a person.
Yeah.
That's what I think
Exactly.
of. Was like, you can't just like go into the priesthood, take that vow, and then break it. And they probably take it seriously.
And so then there's a callback to the middle and the beginning of the episode where Dennis is like, and you said I was a bad person, as he's like wobbling there in his vanity, starved.
Right, because he hasn't eaten in 4 days.
And then he just pops to the floor, and the gang comes up. They come up with the idea of like, hey, I know what'll make you feel better. What if you could teabag Dennis? And David Hornsby has a really great acting moment where he's like, he's got his hand to his temple, and he's just like, oh my God, what have I done? And
my life is over.
When they bring up the teabagging thing, there's like a kind of like a small ray of sunshine. And then, they go get the camera. And that's it, folks.
Dennis gets teabagged. Now, where do you think Cricket's balls went? Forehead, chin? They did mention chin earlier in the episode.
Yeah, I know. That's what made me think that it was a regional thing, because that doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, it's kind of the closest to the mouth without the danger of like someone waking up and biting your balls.
Spoiler warning, even though we talk about Always Sunny constantly, the episode where they hunt Cricket, doesn't Dennis teabag Mac, or Mac teabags Dennis, one way or the other?
Yes.
They dip their balls in something, and then they put it in the other one's mouth.
Yeah. So
because their tongue is that color.
Right. So in that episode, Mac and Dennis are at odds as to which is better, a gorilla mask or teabagging.
Right.
And Mac is arguing that when you teabag someone, you just do it while they're like passed out or asleep, or there's no like lasting effects. Whereas a gorilla mask, you shave off your pubes and you glue it to their face. So like they got to deal with that.
Savage, just an absolute savage prank.
Is that a thing that you've ever heard of?
I feel like I've seen it. I mean, I feel like I've seen it in like TV shows or movies.
Right. I've never heard of it before that episode, which is probably 4 seasons from now. But yeah, so Mac, I forget. I think he might have made it as a suggestion, but Mac, when Dennis wakes up one day to find pubes glued to his face, he goes in to yell at Mac, and he's like, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then Mac's like, haha, see how great it is? And I think that's when Dennis is like, well, yeah, last night I teabagged you. And Mac didn't know, and then he sticks his tongue out, and it's got blue ink on it. He's like, oh, you updated it. Yeah, cool. And they're like both really supportive. After arguing about which is better, they're both like, yeah, these are both great pranks.
They are really good. They're really elaborate. And,
okay, what about the putting someone's hand in water? Have you ever tried that? Like warm. I heard growing up in like elementary school, if you put someone's hand in warm water, they will pee.
I feel like I tried that at a sleepover, but I don't think it worked. But I mean, I don't know. I'm old now, so that this was 50 years ago.
Oh my God. What do you think pranks are right now? Like, what do you think a 12-year-old is doing at a sleepover party? They're probably like removing someone's spleen.
Well, I was going to say, wouldn't it be like they're taking the person's phone and like posting on their social media?
Oh, do you think it's all the same shit? Do you think like there's like a Shakespearean quality to pranks? They're just the same pranks over generations and thousands of years, but now it's like you post it to their Instagram.
Oh no, I was saying like you like you log into their like Facebook account and you write like, I'm a dum-dum.
Oh, you mean the thing that you and I used to do as grown-ass adults?
Yes.
That was actually really fun.
Yeah, I had to explain to my wife why I have like the 20-second lock on my iPhone, iPad, and laptop. Because I was like, well, my friend Jack used to steal my phone and tweet.
I thought I did that.
Oh no, you have been mentioned as well. I mean, I think Jack was the most common culprit of that.
Okay.
I love to smell farts.
Yeah, there's a lot of things about farts.
Yeah,
it's amazing how immature we are for our ages.
Right, but because I mean, just being on tour with that group of people, if you didn't have all your shit locked, you would have 20 new tweets.
Yeah, and then I feel like I had to start getting elaborate because you tweet for a second, and someone replies and says "ha ha," and then you're like, wait a second. You get the notification, then you delete the original tweet. So you have to get in quickly and then retweet from your own account.
Right. Yeah, it's important. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what kids are doing these days. I would assume it has something to do with like modern technology.
Right. Well, the more things change, you know?
The more they stay the same.
Speaking of children's, I've been on the farm. My farm lord, he apparently bought a not working like little Honda dirt bike for $50 off some dude, and then we got it running. So I've been riding this like literal baby dirt bike around the farm.
Cool.
It is meant for like 3 to 8-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much fun. It's a disaster waiting to happen, but it's great.
How are you feeling about Bitcoin right now? It seems like it's going wild.
Yeah, I'm feeling good. We broke the all-time high at the 20K was kind of like the ballpark all-time high that we've been waiting for. And
yeah,
next day, 21, 22, next day, 23,
Yeah.
24. You had mentioned Litecoin was starting to rip a little bit, but I didn't check that
Yeah.
today.
Just for the audience, Will has been a long time hardcore believer in cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin,
Yeah, that's true.
in case you didn't know. But yeah, Will has been preaching the gospel to anyone who will listen for, let's see, 8 years now?
I've got the good Satoshi. I got that good Satoshi. Yeah, I've been a big supporter of Bitcoin for many, many years because when I first heard about it, I was fascinated by this. I've always thought that as technology is ramping up, it seems sort of weird and arbitrary that like our citizenship and all that is like so geographically tied. And I always thought it would be cool one day if you could be like a citizen of a digital country. Like your passport would be digital and like you'd be like a digital nomad, but you'd also be like a digital citizen. And this was the first time I saw anything that made me think, oh, and that digital nation would have a digital currency. It wasn't, yen, it wasn't the US dollars, it wasn't lira, it wasn't the pound. It was this other thing, and I thought it was pretty fascinating. And the fact that it has a fixed money supply is really exciting to me because their government can just print money, which is unfortunate because that's a way for them to pay for wars. They rarely use it to pay for things like healthcare, even though they could. But it means that what?
I read something like 27% of the dollars ever in existence were created in the last year.
I would not agree with that because I don't know, but I would believe that.
Something like that.
Yeah, I would believe that number. Yeah, it's quantitative easing is what they call it sometimes. And it's just like very much, it feels like a trickle-down economics thing. They like create money out of nowhere. They usually, I think, do it by lending. It basically goes to like from central banks to like larger corporations, and I feel like eventually by the time that reaches us, it just makes the dollars that we have in our pockets, and like people with less wealth typically have to hold more cash as a percentage of their total wealth. Like if you don't own a house, you just have a couple grand in the bank, and that's like your savings. I don't know. It's just like if you have $4,000 and that's like your life savings, and you're just kind of like working up enough to like, I don't know, get a new car because you're going to drive Uber or do deliveries, or, if you're like a mechanic or a plumber or something and you just need a new truck and some new supplies, it's like, okay, you've got your $4,000 and every year you can put a couple $100 away and save up. If you put in like $500 every year to this like plan, but the value of your currency is going down by that much, you're literally not saving money.
Right.
Like your money is worth less. The thing that you could have bought for $5,000 that you were saving up for, the next year you save up, you have $4,500, you're almost there. It now costs $5,500. There's inflation that's pushing things away from you as people are just injecting money into the system. So Bitcoin, you can't do that. There's a finite amount of it that will ever be available. And I think it does have its issues. It sort of lends itself to hoarding. Like, I don't know, governments like a little bit of inflation so that it inspires you to spend your money rather than hoard your wealth. But
yeah, how is that working in America?
Yeah, it's just rich people just buy a third, fourth, fifth home. I actually was talking to our friend Ryan about this, and when we were talking about trickle-down economics, I was like, yeah, people picture this like these champagne glasses, and there's like one at the top, and there's like a bunch at the bottom, and if you pour some extra champagne into the top one, eventually that fills up and then it spills over. And it makes sense because once everybody is full, like every new drop you put in, that will eventually get down there. But these people don't have a finite, like, you know, Jeff Bezos doesn't have $100 billion champagne glass. So every dollar you give him, he is going to give it away. He just like uses his champagne to buy a bigger champagne bucket with a little funnel that leads out from his glass. His glass never fills up.
It's the bottomless mimosa from last episode.
Exactly, yeah. So picture a pyramid of mimosa bottles, and the ones at the top are bottomless. And there's no reason for it to overflow. It's just a crazy system. And anyway, I just thought Bitcoin was really novel and interesting and fascinating. And it's been, it has not disappointed in the past 8 years. It's been wild. Other than the financial gains of it, it's also been a really cool experiment to watch.
And if you want to talk to Will more about Bitcoin, please join us at our Discord. Link will be in the show description.
Yes, our Discord, we can talk about games or Bitcoin or the Always Sunny episodes or the Patreon episodes, because we also have a Patreon if you'd like to get access to some of our bonus episodes. The latest episode is regarding Frank Reynolds and his origin story as the Penguin.
It was a really fun movie to watch and then talk about with Will. I really enjoyed it.
Yes, I may have described it as Batman Begins at some point, but it's not. It's Batman Returns.
I got to edit in my one of my favorite sound effects that I pepper in every now and then, which is the Family Feud buzzer, which also has an Always Sunny reference
homage
buried in there somewhere.
Maybe we should start pulling the actual, I don't know, is it the same buzzer?
The Family Fight? No, it's different.
It's different, yeah.
Yeah. I checked. But I just like the Family Feud one better. It just sounds better.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, so if you want more, if you just can't get enough, we've got the Discord server, we've got our Patreon. And if you are enjoying these episodes, it would really help us out a lot if you were to go and subscribe to our channels, wherever you get your podcasts, and maybe leave us a review if you think we're 5-star men.
You can follow us on Twitter at Always Stockholm for the latest occasional tweets.
I'm excited to get to the 5-star men episode.
Definitely. Well, the next episode is going to be pretty fun, even though we should have done it in November.
What? Oh, is it the gang gets
the gang
political?
Runs for office.
Runs for office, yeah. Thanks for listening to our podcast. It gets better every time. This has been another episode of It's Always Stockholm in Los Angeles. I, Will Noon, am here to thank you, and my co-host, Nate Harold, is probably wishing you were dead because he's a dick. Thanks for listening.
It's true.
See ya.
The 7 seas and everything chilling underwater, please. Hot lava, snow, rain and fog. Long neck giraffes and pet cats and dogs. And I've seen 85,000 people all in one room together as equal. Pure magic is the birth of my kid.